morning. It's May 12th, 2021. I'm Kimberly Jelly from Back Quarter Shop FlossTube, and I have been participating in FQS Stitch May-nia, which is where I do a little bit of stitching each day. So we're on day 12. I've been able to stay on track, so that's great. I'm hoping that I can stay on track through the end of this. So let me know in the comments what you're working on, like what are you stitching? Are you stitching some of the same things that I'm stitching? It would be good to see kind of what everybody is stitching. I'm gonna kind of jump right in and show you kind of what I've done each of the days and my plan for this week. So I actually worked on this for 45 minutes this morning. And let's see, this one is Hey Pumpkin. And so it's this pattern that came out in Stitch Quarterly in 2020. And I am using 4 different Aurifil colors. And I like it because I can just throw it in the bag. I don't have to worry about it too much. And this is where I stopped stitching just about 5 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago. So I'm using the 20 count Prairie Cork fabric, and Cork is just kind of the type of fabric, and then Prairie is the color, and I'm stitching over 2. It's basically 10 count Aida if you go over 2. So it's really big stitches. I'm using 3 strands. I actually did a FaceTime with Holt, who is the designer of the fabric, and we did like a little, I did some stitches where it was like 2 strands, 3 strands, 4 strands. I felt like 4 strands was way too thick, so I went with 3 strands. The only thing I don't like about doing that is I can't do the loop method, so my back is a little bit messier because you have to stitch over, so it takes a little bit more time. And so this was part 1, and then part 2 is over here, and I did all of this morning. I kind of started right here, this little section. So by the end of today, I'm going to add the 3rd, let's see, there's like another ring, a 3rd ring. So I'm going to kind of do this little section today. So it's not too much, just right here, just a little bit. And I'll probably cheat and do a little bit down here and a little bit down here just so that I stay ahead. That's one of the ways that I can, when I do Stitch Mania or any of these things, by doing just a little bit for the next week, it gets me ahead. And if I have a bump in the road in my life, then I can just keep going because I've given myself a little bit of extra time. So I love this one. I love this little board. So I'm going to try to find something like that for Priscilla to finish it on. And she did finish this one also for us. And all the information on what she finished it on is on her blog and on the back of the pattern. So that was one of the days this week. And I think next week I have to actually do part 2 and part 3, but today I'm just going to do part 2. So that is the first one. My second one is Fresh Cut. So this is also from Stitch Quarterly 2021, and so this one used Cosmo thread. I'm going to go to the page just so I don't say it incorrectly. So we use Cosmo thread in the kits. I didn't want to buy anything, so I went ahead and just used these colors right here from Classic Colorworks. Licorice Red, Ladybug, 4-leaf Clover, Grasshopper, Finley Gold, and Really Tealy. So I just pulled these from my thread little basket thing that I have. These are all leftover Priscilla and Chelsea colors. So I just didn't want to have to worry about placing an order and having it filled. I keep all this thread on my little bitty board because when I'm sitting in my chair, I'll show you a picture in a little bit with my dog in the chair, but I set this on top of my dog. He actually really likes it. I'm not kidding. Like if I put this on top of him, he won't move. If I don't, then he starts moving around a lot. So this is row 2. So this was the first week, and then this is row 2. And then I'm considering this right here, row 3. So I actually got a little bit ahead here too. We did get a question yesterday about, did I travel on the little green stitches? So I will show you that. I did travel. I couldn't remember, but I did, and you can't see it from the front. I do kind of think, though, just to be completely honest, I do think the green that I'm using is a little bit too dark. But I asked Kevin, and he was like, no, it's fine. When you get everything in there, it'll look fine. So I'm going to leave it and hope that it ends up looking a little bit better. I think it's just a little dark. So I probably should have done a little bit lighter. So tomorrow, I think, is the day I'll finish this. And I'll probably, to get ahead next week, I'll probably do like one of these or something, just to kind of keep on the track of doing a little bit early. And I'm stitching on 14 count bead sack Aida by Lori Holt. And there is a question, do you have cork linen in white or off-white? So right now we only have it in that one color. The next one is Sail Away. And I am using the called for color in cotton. And what I do is I just put this on one side, and then on this side it has my cute little floss keepers. FlossBitties. Just trying to think of the name. So I'm not changing any of the colors. I'm keeping it just the same. And part 2 came out on Friday. So this is part 2. And I did want to say on here, we did do this as one font and this is another font on purpose. So one is sans serif and one is serif. So they're both the same font. One serif and one sans serif. And we did it on purpose. So, because we did get some questions, so I just wanted, it was funny because they were like, did you know you did that? And I'm like, yeah. So we basically draw it and then convert it to cross stitch, but that's the fonts we started with. So this was actually pretty easy and it was really fun. I kind of tried to do the white at the same time, the red at the same time, the blue at the same time. So that, and then this Friday, if you've signed up for this PDF, you will get part 3, which is right here. And you can kind of tell what that is. I mean, it does say sail away, so it might be a sailboat. You can kind of see what it is. And on that one, look, I'm almost filling up my book. That one I stitched on 14 count Touch of Blue by Witchell. The next one was May Sampler of the Month. So right here is my May sampler, and let me look at this one. I'm stitching on 16 count Beautiful Beige, and I'm stitching on the 16 count because it fits the frames that are made by Family Tree Frame Company. We are hoping they ship soon because I'm waiting for them just like you, but normally I would have preferred to stitch on 14 count. It does take me quite a bit longer on 16 count. And what I did on this one is I was in the club, so when I got the club at the beginning, you get a lot of floss. So I didn't want all this floss just hanging out in my bag. So I just used this little tiny bag that I made last year with a Lori Holt pattern and some Lori Holt fabric. And then if you're in the club, you also got your remaining fabric that you needed. So I kind of just keep it there. So this week I'm going to do the bottom. It's not taking me too long. It's about a little under 2.5 to 3 hours to do each, so it's not too long, and it's super cute. And I really like the June one also. I'm going to start June in June. And this one's been fun. Just breaking it up into 3 parts has really helped it kind of, you know, just break it up a little bit. I think that by changing from project to project, like daily, is really good to keep you motivated. This is Stitchy Stars by Lori Holt. I love this one. So this one, I'm going to actually make twice, and I'll tell you about it. So I'm using the Called For Weeks Die Works. And I love the colors. So I divided it into 7 sections, just, you know, quilt blocks. These are based on quilt blocks from her books. And I'm stitching on the 14 count Oatmeal where it's got the mottled side. So this is part 2. And it took me a little bit, about 2 hours to do. And when I'm doing these, I am doing all of the white first, all of the pink first, second, then the light blue, then the dark blue, because I don't want those dark colors to bleed into my white. And the border was super easy, so I went ahead and did all the border so that when we fill in, it's super easy to just, you know, fill in. I've already done kind of all the, I think doing it all at one time just kind of helps because you've already counted here. It's the same exact count here, 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 and here, and so it just kind of makes it easy. And this one, so I'll tell you what I'm going to do for Jolly July, which is where I stitch Christmas in July. In 2022, I'm going to stitch this same thing in Christmas colors. So, and I'm going to finish this one horizontal. And when I do the Christmas one, I'm going to finish it vertical. And the fun thing about that is you stitch it the same way. Doesn't matter. It's just how you finish it. So you can, so that they'll look different. And they'll be out at different times. I was going to do that as part of Jolly July this year, but decided not to just because I think it's good to break it up. I mean, I don't really want to stitch it in May and then stitch it again right away. So this week I actually have to do 2 of the quilt blocks. And this one I really, really love. This one I just really, really, really love. And I'm going to talk a little bit about it. So this one is So Blessed by October Fiber House. And all of these little bags right here that you see, they're dot dot doos. So this is called So Blessed. It is by October House. And I'm going to kind of show you a little cheat sheet. I am using all of the called for colors. And so she mixed Classic Color Works and Weeks Die Works, which I think is good. And that's the way that you're able to get pink, all this pink fabric thread. But I'm going to show you a little cheat. So these are my threads. I'll show you my piece, then I'm going to show you my cheat. And then this is my little bitty board because I try to keep those in every box, every bag. So on this one, I'm stitching on 14 count Aida Pale Gray Gingham fabric flare. Now we did get requests to do the 16 and the 18 count in this fabric flare, and it should be here in the next 7 business days. So if you're waiting on that smaller count of this fabric, it will be here soon. So the one thing I was concerned about is it's a big circle. So I was concerned I wouldn't know where the top was because I don't know if you do this and this, if it's the exact same. So I just put the word top because I just didn't trust myself. And I'm just going to fill in the different spools and then the font here. And I really like this one because it's got a lot of movement. It's got a lot of white space. It's just very different design than I normally do. But I'm going to show you one thing that I had to do to make this work for me. And I'm going to kind of set it up off camera so that I don't mess up what I'm trying to show you. Okay. So I'm not going to show the whole pattern because I don't want to get in trouble. But I do want to show you a little trick that I'll just cover both sides so that you can't tell. But my trick I'm going to show you is I really have a hard time when I've got 2 pieces of paper that need to go together, if that makes sense. So I folded the second piece on that overlap line, put double-sided Scotch tape and put this down so that it becomes one chart. Because if I have to look at here and then here, I'm just gonna mess up. I already know I'm gonna mess up. So that was my trick, is to fold it over as neatly as you can right on that line, and then put some double-sided Scotch tape. And then I just fold it like this when I put it in my bag, and on the back, this is single-sided tape to put down to keep it really secure so that it's not moving around. So that's how I made this pattern work for me. And one other thing that I did work on this week, it's in my plan for next week, but I had a little bit of extra time. This is Farmhouse Christmas. And I worked on this. I was hoping to get the red done, but this is where I'm doing it over 9 months. So this is the 5th month, and I don't have to have this one done until next week, but I just kind of wanted to get a head start because these blocks take about 5 to 8 hours. And the funny thing is, I thought, oh, I can't wait for the quilt block. It's going to be so easy. No, thank you. It is 100% stitching in this area. So it's like there's 0 spaces between here and here. So when I fill in the black and the red, that is way more stitching than any of these others. So I don't know what I was thinking. I do like doing this one though, because you don't have to like start and stop like, you know, you would here. You just like do the truck stop, do the house stop, do the tree stop. This, it's very kind of monotonous. So I've got to just fill in the reds and then the little blacks. And this is probably one where I will take it to baseball, because this little fill in right here is just all black. So it'll make it easy. But just trying to get a little bit ahead. And this is kind of the same thing where I take a bag, a normal bag, but then I put a smaller bag in here with all my thread, because when you buy all that thread up front, it's just a lot, and I feel like it gets messy in my bag. And so red is my next color, so I just leave it. It was neater before I showed up, but you know, leave it in here. And I have 2 scissors in here. Why do I have 2 scissors in here? I don't know. Maybe I'll be looking for another pair. I do keep this on the front, which is my conversion chart. And when I'm doing this one, the one thing that I do, I'll show this, is to stitch in hand and to hold this, that's a lot. So you can tell I roll it because you can already see the rolls. So I roll it this way as tight as I can, and then I clip it where there's no stitches. Which of course, I mean, you could clip it on the stitches, I just don't. And then you can see my folds on this side that I roll also. And when I get here, I also flip up. And then kind of put this here. And then when I'm stitching, I'm just holding, and it keeps it steady. And every now and then I'll roll a little bit this way or a little bit that way, but this is how I'm able to do it. And this doesn't ever really bother me if I have too much over here. It's when I have a lot here, it kind of gets in my way. So that's what I've been stitching this week. So I'm going to answer questions, and let's see, it says, I subscribe to the Stitch Quarterly this week. Is it possible to purchase the Spring Quarterly with the fresh cut pattern? The Spring Quarterly, what does that mean?
Like the March release. The March from fresh cut. From Stitch Quarterly. No.
Oh, okay. It is coming out later in June or May. We'll look at the date and see. Do you know the date? Okay, I think the pattern will be coming out. It will be coming out soon, within the next month. So the Stitch Quarterly members get that 90 days before everybody else. What size of fabric is needed to stitch Farmhouse Christmas in one piece? So I can tell you that. I'm going to tell you in 14 count, or whatever I'm stitching in, because that's what I have written down. So let's see what I'm stitching on. I'm stitching on 16 count. So if you're stitching on 16 count, it's gonna be about 13 by 13 finished. So if you want 2 inches around, you would have a 17 by 17 inch piece. Your stitch count is 209 by 209. And so if you're doing 14 count, you would take 209 divided by 14 and then add how much border you want. So my piece is probably 17 by 17. What fabric are you using for Farmhouse Christmas? I am using 16 count Aida Beautiful Beige by Witchell 355-321A. What do you use your bitty boards for? Okay, so I'll show you this. This is what I do. So like last night when I was working on this, I do this. Any colors I'm working with at that time I have out. So last night I had out the white and the taupe. Let's see what color it is. It's called Pebble Beach, I think, is what that one is. And I'll just have all three colors. Well, I never got to the red. And then once I've done all the white, I put my white back in here. Once I've done all the pebble, I put that back in here. Now, I just haven't got the black out because I knew I wasn't going to have time to get to it. So I'll get the colors that I think I need. And then when I sit in my chair on the left, my dog sits there, and I put this on him. It's like, I don't know, he likes to be covered with stuff like a blanket or... I don't know, one of my kids like covers him with blankets all the time, so he actually really, I'm not kidding, like he really likes it. So if I put something on him, it's like he really, I don't know, he really likes it. So this will just sit on top of my dog. What color is the blue in the banner on Sail Away? I don't think I got that in my kit. So I'll just put this here and try to figure it out. So the blue, there's two blues. This blue right here is Delft Blue by Color and Cotton. This color is Dark Indigo. So there's just two blues. The gray is Spectra, and these are Color and Cotton. And this is Spectra, and then this is Pearl White. So, yeah, those are the blues. What size is your bitty board? Okay, so I buy them pre-made. They're Lori Holt products. And as any design board comes in from her, because I use them for quilting and cross stitch, I just buy one of every new one. These are 7 by 7, I believe. Yep, 7 by 7. So on the back, it'll say the size, but they fit in the bags by Goose. And I use a lot of her bags. They're pretty sturdy, and this vinyl is really nice, and so I know that when I use her bags, I'm going to be able to reuse them over and over because they last. And then this one, I'll show you. It's so cute. Oh my gosh, this is my little doggy. This is Pinky. Right there. So this lady who designs this fabric, she does really nice stationery. I can't think of her name right now, but she has a lot of stationery with different animals like pigs, all kinds of animals. And so one time I did buy some of her stationery with the pugs because it's really cute. Okay, what size needle would I use for 10 count? Size 24. How long do you cut your thread for stitching? That is a great question. So if I'm using DMC, it comes in 8-yard increments. So I will just get it all where I have 8-yard segments and use 8 yards. With Classic Colorworks and Color and Cotton, it's already cut. So I leave it there. With Weeks Dye Works, it comes in 5-yard increments. So I divide that into 5 sections. So that comes out to actually about a yard each. So I would say about 36 inches, but I do the loop method. So when I'm starting, I'm really only starting with 18 inches. But I think a lot of that is personal preference. Some people like to have longer thread. I think that when Cheryl stitches, she starts with a longer thread than I do. I think it's a lot of personal preference. And you could always just pull off what you think you need and not do the whole skein at one time. I kind of just do the one skein at one time just to save time. Kimberly, can you campaign Tula Pink to turn her fabric into cross stitch? You are the magic maker. I can talk to her. Can you show how to load the thread onto a holder and how you take off each strand? Yes, that is a great question also. So I'm happy to do that. Let me do that on Sail Away. I can show on a couple of different ones though. So let's do Sail Away first. And then I'll grab a Weeks Dye Works one to do. So when you get Color and Cotton, it comes, oh no, It does not. That's a mess. It comes like this. Let's see. I have it a mess. Oh my gosh, this is a mess. This is not how it's supposed to be, but let me fix it. This is me getting it out of order. Hold on. There we go. So it comes like this, where you get, it's kind of messy, 8 strands, but I've made it messy. So because it's 8, I think it's 8 strands she has here. Whatever it comes with like this. So when I get it, I'll kind of straighten it. Okay, see, that's looped over. And I will, I guess, join that back up and then join again. And then when I put it back on, I put it here. But if I have one strand left, let me see. Okay, so I'm gonna pull one strand off. So let's say that I had this and I was working and I had a bitty board and I had a strand of gray that was already pulled out. So to pull this, I literally just find a little piece, like a little piece of thread, and I hold my fingers here taut and I just yank it. The faster you go, the less wrinkled it's gonna get. As I say that, this big old hot mess comes. We'll blame the camera on this happening because this is not usually what happens. So I'll put this back. But then I will have, just say I have like one little strand left over, which is here. I will do the same thing where I join the 2 ends like that and kind of loop it over a couple times. And then anything that I've already pulled off, I put it at the other end. So when I go like to stitch next time, I can just pull this and then I don't have to pull all of it off. So anything loose I leave over here. And then you could do the same thing with Weeks Dye Works, but I'll show you it's a little bit different. So with Weeks Dye Works, there's only one hole versus Classic Color Works and Color and Cotton and Gentle Arts. Those have 2 holes like this. So there's a top hole and a bottom hole and a longer card for it to go on. Weeks Dye Works is smaller, which is fine. So you can see this one is just normal. So this is how it came and I didn't have anything extra left over. But here, when I was doing Stitchy Stars, I have 2 left over here. So that means you just pull them off. But that way when I'm stitching, I just pull these off first. So I don't have to pull all of that off. And just put it, so I kind of just keep it over there. And when I do finish a project, like when I'm finished, I will put everything back on here. And if I was just stitching at home, I wouldn't do that. I would just leave it on the bitty board, but I basically take all of my stitching to and from work every day, just so that I can get the most use out of my time. So that's kind of that little trick. So if y'all have any more questions on that, just let me know. And I mean, there's not like a standard way. That's just what I do. I'm not saying that my way is right or perfect. It's kind of just what I do. Margaret says, new cross stitcher here. Got my July calendar crate. I've never worked with over dyed floss. I'm finding it linting and knotting easily. Okay, so over dyed floss is dyed on DMC, but sometimes the different dyes will make it knot a little bit more or less. I find that it's the same, but I would just use the Lori Holt bee conditioner. What's it called? Honeybee. It's the beeswax. Sorry, I was trying to think of the word. So just use her beeswax and run your thread through it. And I'll show you how to do that. So it comes, it's super cute. So I usually leave this side pretty, and then I'll pull one of these off. Some people do say that like if you're stitching with a red thread, you will tangle more because of whatever's in the red dye. Now, I don't have any idea if that's true. I'm just saying that's what I've heard. So what you can do, this actually, okay, so this is leftover. This is not a full piece. It's 2 small pieces. But I save it because sometimes you don't need a full piece. So I'll just move this out of the way. What you can do with your thread, now, You can do it on this side too. It's 100% natural. It's made in America, and it's from a bee harvester or beekeeper, whatever you call that. So if you flip that over, you can see that I've used it right there. So you can see the little lines, and that's literally me pulling the thread. So what I'll do is I'll just put it where it kind of goes in. It coats your thread and it should tangle less. So I would try that and see what you think. Some people like it, some people don't. Try it. Anything is worth a try when you're doing cross stitch or quilting or any kind of craft. I think it's great that there's so many options. So just see what works. And whatever works for you is what you should do. On 18 count, do you use 2 or 1 thread? Okay. On 18 count, on the shine on that I'm going to show you in a little bit, I use 2 strands. Sorry, I can't talk today. I used 2 strands. I think I was supposed to use 1, but I used 2, so I just didn't follow the rules. So you can do whatever you want. I don't know. It doesn't look that great, so I probably should have used 1, but it's okay. Loved your photo of you stitching at baseball. Oh, thanks. Kevin took that photo. So my son's in the playoffs, whatever you call that. And I'm like determined that I'm not sitting by these people anymore because they are crazy. These kids are 10 years old. These parents are like fighting with the umpires, calling them names, like walking to the fence, talking. I'm like, you need to get a job and you need to get a hold of yourself and you need to sit your butt down. So I've decided that I'm no longer sitting in the bleachers because I can no longer take it anymore because these people are crazy. And also my kid's he's not like, the best player. So they say stuff and I'm like, oh my God, he's 10. He's scared of the ball because some of the pitchers they're great, really good pitchers, but they throw fast. And I mean, if you're a little kid, you're scared. Anyway, sorry, thanks. I had to do my little rant. How do you clean the stuff off your bitty board? They don't really get too dirty, but you could use a lint roller or you could just pick it off I use them forever. Sometimes I did do some dyeing where I was trying to test something and I ruined one of mine. So that had to go in the trash, but rarely do they go in the trash. Fran, I just tried stitching in hand last week thanks to watching you do the rolling your fabric and folding it up. I still haven't tried the stitching method. Baby steps. Yeah, so, and if you want to use a Q-snap or a spring tension hoop or anything, don't feel like what I do is what you have to do. I kind of do things the fastest that I can so that I can produce more for the show. Because to me, when you come to watch Kimberly on this FlossTube, I want you to be inspired. I want to show you different varieties and have as much to show you as possible so you can see how things are looking. So that's kind of my method. If I didn't do it for work, I'd probably go a lot slower. Will you be sharing your floss for the Christmas version? Yes, next year, 2022. I'm not going to pick it this year because next year I might have a different color scheme going on. Is there a Facebook page? So we have a Fat Quarter Shop Facebook page that you can follow, and that is for quilting. You can follow FQS Cross Stitch on Facebook, and that is our cross stitch Facebook group. And we have a group called Kimberly Stitch Squad where you can share your progress. So we have that and we have more, but those are the 3 that are relevant for now. Brooklyn says, I am using 14 count with 2 strands and it looks thin. Should I try 3? Oh, I wouldn't try 3. I think 3 would get too bulky. I think your stitches would, instead of like lying flat, I think they would get fat and do this. What is the piece behind you with the house? Oh my gosh, I'm going to show you in a little bit, so stay tuned. It's one of my favorite pieces. It's always up in my house. Okay, this is a good question. Trisha says, how much time do you spend quilting versus cross-stitching in a day or a week? I have a hard time switching. Okay, very easy. I cross-stitch during the day at work, and I quilt Friday night from like 6 o'clock to 10. I get up at like 7:30, sometimes 7, and I'll stitch until my kids need to be somewhere. I'll quilt. So I quilt Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I cross stitch during the day and at night during the week. So it's kind of broken up by days. Now, of course, when I do Stitch Mania, I have to change it around. The FQS Stitch May-nia, I switch it around a little bit, but I get a lot of quilting done. Friday nights I love because there's always good TV. there's either Dateline or 2020, and I will watch one of those because I love Keith Morrison. I get to meet him, I get to see him in a couple of weeks. I'm so excited. So yes, I try to divide it between the week and the weekend, but with my quilting, I will starch during the week and then just kind of go for it. If you've got traveling, what do you bring, like on vacation? I bring all that stuff that I'll bring, oops, I will spill all this in my lap. I'll just bring like stuff like this. I'll bring this. I will try to figure out what I think I can really achieve, but I will bring different projects. I will bring my Halo Go light because it folds up, and I will bring my bag that has my project planner and all my little extra needles, scissors. I travel on the plane with these scissors. I've never gotten them taken away from me. They do follow the TSA rule, but I mean, you know, every TSA agent is going to be different. But I travel with these, and I stitch on the plane. I stitch before I get on the plane. I stitch in the car. I'll stitch anywhere. Like when we went to Mother's Day dinner, I was stitching in the car. I stitch at dance. Like all the moms know, they're like, oh, there's Kim with that light. They all make fun of me, and it's fine. Like we're friends. It's good. Stitching sail away. How do you determine the center and where to start part 2? Okay, so this is kind of what I did. So in part 1, I did the chains. For part 2, I did this little section. I did these 2, and then I did these 2. And then I came down here and did like this word, came down here and did this word, did this, and then I went from here out. And I just count down. So I'll count 4 rings. 1, 2, 3, 4 rings, chains, and then I'll count down from there. And I just triple check as I do it. So, I don't know. That's kind of how I did it. I just count and double count. I do make mistakes on that stuff and just pull it out if I need to. I noticed there are lots of over-dyed fabric and floss that are not color fast. I'm not sure if this is a problem. Do you just avoid getting it wet? Yes, that's what I do. And I do iron with the steam. You're not supposed to. But I don't generally wash my projects at the end. How long did it take you to stitch part 2 of Sail Away? Three and a half hours. So not too bad. A little over 3.5. Will you be offering a project bag for Bats and Booze? I love all your project bags. We are going to be offering and showing something that we sold last year that's going to go with it. And I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. Will a PDF for Maeve Typography Pine Needles be available soon? Yes, we will email her today and get that online today. Do you always recommend using 3 strands with 20 count cork? So that's what Lori and I came up with. We FaceTime all the time. So I literally had her, like, I think I had my son holding the phone because I don't know how to do it. But that's just what I just looked at it and that's what we decided. But it's really up to you what you think looks good. I'm kind of indecisive on making decisions. So I just did like a whole row of 10 and then showed her. And we were like, we both agreed that the 3 worked. So we went with that. White vinegar in lukewarm water stops the dye running. So that helps for the color fast. Will Sail Away work on coffee tea dyed cream? I think it will. You just want to make sure your white is going to pop up enough and your gray. So just, I would, whatever fabric you have, lay your thread on it and just make adjustments as you need. I'm working on Lori Holt Stitchy Stars. I love the colors. Yes, I will tell her. She will love that. Serendipity, Sail Away, Sew by Row, Calendar Crates. That's what I'm working on. Yay! I'm working on all that except Calendar Crates because I have to start that one. Let's see. Brenda says, good morning. I'm working on Fresh Cut. My supplies for Sail Away arrived and I can't wait to get started. Yay! Thanks for joining us on that. That's fun. So, We have some super chats. So Piggy's going to say, bark, bark, thank you, thank you. And Dot Dot Goose Design Denise says, good morning, FQS, Lori, and everyone from me and Miss Gracie. Good morning. So Gracie's her little kitty cat. And then Karen Amron says, I'm stitching SAL away. Any hints on how to not split an individual strand of floss, especially when using Aura floss with 6 strands on 10 count? How to not split. So what I do is you have 6 strands. Let me see. Let me find my bag. It's right here. Okay. This is what I think you're asking. So let's see. So this is left over from this morning. So this actually is 3 strands. Let me move this out of the way. I'm trying to make it where you can see. This is actually 3 strands already, but I will not just start with the 3 strands. Oh my gosh, it's moving. So what I will do, I actually separate my strands. So I will do 1. Now it's knotting at the bottom, and it'll come out. You just kind of, I probably made these too long. I'll do 1, and then I'll pull the 2nd. I always separate them. I never leave them together. So I'll separate this one. So this one's over here, just hanging out by itself. It's hanging out by itself. I'll pull this one. Yeah, I made these too long. And then this one. And then I'm going to put them all back together. And so I put the tops back together the way they were. And then straighten it. Now, see, it's much straighter than it was when we started. Now, if it's not straight enough, just use the beeswax. And I would do the same thing when I start with the 6. I just pull 3 out, put them back together, and I just, whatever place you pulled it from, join those sides back up. And then when I'm done, I will just put these kind of in a little loop. Like that. Okay, can you show Amber 14 count next to beautiful beige for comparison? Do we have Amber?
It's flash sale.
Oh, yes, I can. Let me pull it. And thanks. Okay, so this is Amber 14 count, Witchell. Amber is the color. It's on flash sale today, so I think that's why she's asking. And so this is 14 count. So this will be a little bit different just because this is 16 count. So the holes are, you know, different sizes. But so I would say this has more brown and this has more tan. So that would be the difference. Has the May snapshot shipped? Yes. We're going to shipping this week. And I actually am going to talk about that in a little bit. Will you get the red, white, and bloom by Brenda Gervais? Yes, we have it on order and we will load it the same day we get it. Kimberly, is there a tool for ripping out stitches besides the needle? Asking for a friend. You're funny. I use my needle, but we are working on something for that. We, meaning me and someone else. But for now, I just use my needle. But when I have to pull stitches out, I usually clip right to the last stitch and just pull everything out so that I'm not pulling a whole big thing out. I'm just pulling little small stitches. And I did pull a lot of stuff out last night, actually. I stitched, when I showed you guys the Farmhouse Christmas, I stitched one of the corners wrong and I had to restitch it. But it was because I was watching on Tuesday night, his name is Scott Reich, and he is a defense lawyer in Colorado, and he has a show called Crime Talk with Scott Reich, and he's live every Tuesday. And I love to watch it. So I was just because he gets like really mad, and I think it's hilarious because he like doesn't know how to keep his cool. And so it is so funny to watch him, and I think he's funny. I think his jokes are funny. So I was just way too enthralled in what he was talking about, and so I was like, okay, you need to focus on your stitching. Okay, Kimberly, do you know when Pebble 25 count by Lori Holt will arrive? What color is similar for DMC? I don't know the color similarity, but we can look at that once it comes in, but I think that's June, July. Will you be carrying the kit for cookbook for Lori Holt's? Yes, it should be online. We'll check after live stream. I'll look at that, but yes, we will. We're pre-selling that kit, so I think it should be online already. If not, it'll be online today. So that was kind of my FQS Stitch Mania, everything I've worked on this week. Let's see, I'm stitching Stitchy Stars in Halloween in rows of 3. Will Lori's Halloween stitching cards fit in the last 2 blocks? Let me look. Let me look. Okay. Let me just count real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. It will fit perfectly because they're all 24 by 24. It's just that if you're doing a stitch card, you'd probably have to add some white to make it all filled in, since her stitch cards are not. Her stitch cards are all 24 wide by 24 height, but they're not all 100% filled in like this. So you might have to fill in some. Recommendation for Kimberly, Crime of the Century on HBO. Ooh, I will watch that today. So remind me, I will watch that today. I have been watching on HBO. I think it came out a couple years ago. It's called Beyond a Reasonable Doubt, and it's really good. It's not great, but it's good. I have one thing that I talked to Lori about, and is just, there's just not a lot of TV on right now to watch. So it's kind of, I'll fall asleep if I don't have something to watch. So I've been like desperate for something to watch. So I'm going to move to part 2, and we have a new series that we're going to be doing soon. I'm going to show you a little sneak peek, and I'm going to hope that my felt doesn't come off. So this is called Mystery Bats and Booze. This is going to be a completely free cross stitch pattern. It's going to release in 4 different parts. As it creeps closer, we'll update you on the final dates and all the details to get started. We're starting it a little bit later than planned because the quilt fabric that we're using for the quilting part is a little delayed, and we really want to do them at the same time. We want to do the quilting and the cross stitch at the same time since they go together. And this is the tease for the cross stitch. Cheryl stitched this for us. It is Icelandic gray 14 count with Weeks Dye Works. So that's the fabric. She stitched this in the Weeks Dye Works thread pack. So she used Weeks Dye Works. But we also have a DMC thread pack. So you can use either one. They're very similar colors. Very similar colors. I mean, you can see those oranges are really close. And we recommend that you put it in the bag that you already got last year called Fright Night. So spider web, kind of spider web, not really, but kind of. I mean, so it does kind of go together. And that's what we meant for them to do, is to go together. So you can use that. You probably already have it from last year. And our 2 fabric options. So everything cross stitch is in stock. We're just gonna give you details on the dates later when the fabric arrives. So this is Icelandic gray, which will 14 count, and this is what the sample is stitched on, and the linen version of Icelandic gray is here. So you can see the difference. I mean, pretty similar, but the linen does always look a little different. And I want to give a big thank you to Priscilla for finishing this for us. All the information will be on her blog. This is her Priscilla's Pretty Plaids fabric, and it's on a block. I don't want to turn it too much because if I turn it all the way, my felt might come off. And then these were on, if you were shopping in Michael's, they were like stems, and these were on the top, and so she just popped that off. And then this was also in the Michael's section, and it was like on stems, and she just cut it off, and then she did a pretty bow. So let me know if there's any questions on any of the bats and boos. But it's going to be awesome because it's free, and if you already have gray fabric at home, you can just pull out your gray fabric and you probably already have a black and white thread. So you really, if you're looking for something free and you don't have to buy anything, you might have all the supplies you already need. So it doesn't look like there's any questions on bats and booths. So I'm going to move on. Oh, it says, when will the flea market floss be coming in? It's going to be about 2 weeks. We have every color in stock except DMC 08. So if you would like to buy them individually on the site, you can. That's the only color we're out of. And we have tons of the other floss, but we just ran out of color 08. Can Kimberly show how to unwind DMC floss and transfer to FlossBitties? Yes, we'll have to get a brand new skein though to do that. So we'll get one and do it a little bit later in the show. When will Classic Colorworks Club open? Oh my gosh, I don't know. So she just doesn't have the capacity to add. We could email her again today and ask her, but she limits, you know, each shop can get a certain amount. So unless somebody gets out of the club, we can't really open it. What is the size for bats and boos? I'm gonna look real quick so I tell you the right answer. It is on our blog. Let's see. It measures, okay, so the stitch count is 93 by 93. If you use the 14 count or the 28 count that we used, it will finish at 6 3/4. And all that is on the blog. I forgot to say that. Kimberly, have you heard of Crime Junkies on Spotify? Okay, I would like you to Google Crime Junkies plagiarism. That's all I'm going to say. That's allegedly, I don't want to get sued. Okay, so we're going to move to Stitch Cards I. So yes, I have heard of them. So Stitch Cards I are the stitch cards that we publish for Lori Holt, and each time she does a theme, and this is probably my favorite theme she's done. I wish I had a little girl that was little instead of a 14-year-old, because these would be so cute in her bedroom. So these are the next set that are going to release May 31st. So if you're in the club, they're going to ship to you first. And Denise stitched all of these. She stitched on 25 count Farmhouse, and we stitch them on different pieces of fabric because of how we finish them. So we're going to mail these to Lori to finish for us. We will have a thread pack, and on the stitch cards, Lori just does DMC only. And if you want to get these as part of the club, just sign up. And this one's so cute. Oh my gosh. I wish I would have done my daughter's hair like that in pigtails, but I never did. So cute. So these are going to be set I. So that will be A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. That will be 36 total stitch cards. Plus, you know, some of her other stuff can fit in those that are some of her other patterns. So we're going to keep doing these. They're going to be once a quarter, and I love it. When does the next Patchwork Seasons come out? Early June. And I'm getting a kit for that ready for me. And I think you're going to like it. Are you getting closer to offering a FlossBitty holder? Oh, we're real close. So it has been ordered. It just has to be made and shipped to us. So yes. We're not going to show it though. Oh, okay. So this is our stitch card. So let me know if there's any questions. So to explain the stitch cards, I'm going to explain kind of two things. Here we go. So when Lori is designing her motifs that are mostly based on her quilt books, so a lot of these are in Farm Girl Vintage or Farm Girl Vintage 2 or Spelling Bee or Great Granny Squared or any of those books she does. So if you look at this block, she's got 24 stitches wide by 24 stitches down. If you look in this pattern, now this is not all the way filled in, but there will be 24 this way and 24 this way. So you could technically put all of these in this border setting. So she has lots of different border settings for her stitch cards. So those are fun. And then I'm going to show you this one. So let's see, this is Shine On Sampler from the Bonnie and Camille Quilt Bee book. And we're gonna look real quick at the dates. And let's see, we are on week 10. So week 10 was pretty easy. It only took me about 2 hours. You can see where it says week 10. Now week 11, oh, it's a booger. It's a booger. So I'll show you kind of what I have going on. So this is what week 10 was. And as I had my blue or aqua, navy, red out from here, I just went ahead and did a couple stitches here so that when I get to this week, I will be ready. Now, since this, I'm gonna pop that image back up, and you can see I have half done. So if you look at that week 11 square and then come back and look at mine, I have half done. The reason why is this is a lot of stitching. So I'm gonna finish this next. And I have all of my floss on the little beekeeper. And now I'm going to do a little demo that was asked for. So I'm going to do that real quick. Okay. So here is a FlossBitty. We have lots of these. We have, this one is Halloween. We have ones that match Sail Away. We have Christmas ones. We have sewing ones. We have lots of different packs of those. And maybe next week we'll do a little segment where we show you all the little packs. But the question that we received was if you could show how to get your DMC from here to here. So I'm going to show you, and it's hope that it doesn't mess up. So the first thing when you're pulling from DMC, you always want to pull from the number side. If you pull from this side over here, it's going to 100% be jacked up in terms of wrinkling and knots. So you have to start from here. So I do try to keep the whole skein in my hand so that it prevents it from like wrapping and getting out of order, which is about to happen probably because we're on camera and that's what happens. So what I do is I just pull from this side, and I can tell it's already kind of, I just pull as, you know, slow and steady. And if I keep this hand here, it's less likely to get knots. Now, a little bit of knots are coming out, but that's okay. So I just go slow. This is one of those things that I wish I could train my kids how to do. But I can barely do it half the time, so I've just kept this hand steady. And by doing that, I haven't got any knots yet. Now, I do have this going, but it's okay. You'll see it'll all work. So slow and steady. Now I get to the end and look at that big old knot. That's gonna come out. That big knot. So I'm going to get that out. So 04, I will take a DMC sticker and put it on here. We obviously don't have that up here, which is fine. We'll label it later. So I just undo this knot. Now I've got to find my beginning. So here's my beginning. Now, let's see. So I just joined my beginning. Now these are about 8.7 meters. So that's about 8 yards. And I'm going to put it into 8 sections. So I just keep it, same thing. Left hand over here. Now you've got a little knot. It'll come out. You just pull it a little bit. And I mean, knotting happens. Knots happen. Let's see. There. You just kind of, I feel like you have to have like a glass of wine before you do this so you can just like have your nerves kind of, you know, down. This is why, I will tell you, this is why Priscilla and Chelsea use Classic Colorworks, because they don't want to do this. This is extra time they don't want to have to mess with. So they rarely, she only uses DMC with Prairie Schooler because of that. So now I'm just kind of doing the same thing, getting it nice and straight. And of course I've got another knot. You just kind of get used to how to get it out. But I am just kind of keeping it straight. So now when I loop this, I've got four. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm going to do one more time. So again, keeping it straight as I can. Now I'm going to go here. Now that's about how much I have. So it's 8. So on this side, okay, I have a little knot there. I'll get that out later. Usually I get the knots out with a needle, but it's kind of far away. So it'll just come out. So from here, I have my 2 ends. I'm gonna clip these at the end to clip those. Come over here, clip these. From here, join them together. Sounds like we're marrying somebody, join them together. And then put them on the end of a FlossBitty. And you could do less. Let's see. And you just loop it over. Now that's messy. Let me see. Let me do it again. I'm going to do less. I think that's too many. So I'm going to go here. And you just put that in. Pull your threads through. And there you go. Now, if you want to keep it kind of out of your way, you could always put a little loop, pull it through. So, yay! It does take quite a while. Is there a softer aider for bats and boos? So you could get, if you want something softer, you could look for Picture This Plus or Color and Cotton or Fiber on a Whim and look for a gray, because those are hand dyed, so they're a little bit softer. Question about stitch cards. I'm in the club. Can I add the floss to the stitch card set, or do I need to order separately? So on that, I would order separately. Can a beginner start the join the stitch card club? Yes, those are very beginner friendly. Does FQS carry Zweigart Belfast linen and antique white 101? No, we will write that down and we can order it. If Yarn Tree or Hoffman have it in stock, we'll order it and cut it down and sell it by the fat quarter. I'm in the stitch, okay, that's the same question. Any new project bags coming soon? Yes, we have a Christmas bag, not set, we're gonna sell them individually coming, and we will be coming with a new Lori Holt Dottie bag. So yes, but those should be about 3 months out. Would you be able to give an overview on cross-stitch fabrics? Aida, type, brand, what are all the different names, and what is Lugana that so many floss tubers talk about? Yes. We're going to do that as part of our cross-stitch series that we will be filming in June and releasing in August. But just for a general, a 25 count Lugana is what a lot of the floss tubers I watch use. And that would be the equivalent of 12.5 Aida, which really doesn't exist. So it's a really good one to start. But Lugana means that it is an even number of strands this way and this way. So it is similar to Aida, that it has a similar look throughout. If you get a linen, it might have nubs in it, and so it won't be as clean looking as a Lugana would. I'm going to show something else that I worked on. I also worked on this last night. So this is our Serendipity cross stitch. We have raised a lot of money for Make-A-Wish. I'm going to look at the total, but it's a little bit over $74,000 as of last night. So this is our Serendipity stitch along that we started, and let's see, we have raised $74,499. So we have almost raised $75,000. And if you would like to see some of the grants we have granted the last 2 weeks, I have shown that. So I just wanted to let you know this Saturday row 5 is going to come out, and this is row 5. And while I was watching Scott Reich last night, this is the one that I actually had to pull out. I went ahead and stitched 2 of the blocks so that I would be a little bit ahead. So on Saturday morning, you can go to our site, go to the What's New page, and you can download this, and then you can do your whole row. And I'm loving this. This is, I'm trying to look for my book real quick. It's Navy Aida. Navy Witchell. Oh, it's right here. Navy 14 count Aida by Witchell. And I'm using the Weeks Dye Works Floss Pack. And I kind of just keep this one long and skinny, rolled up, and put it in here. So that's exciting. I've loved seeing everything everybody has been doing. I also have a framed finish this week. So this is Prim and Proper by Lori Holt. And I worked on this a lot during spring break. And okay, we'll zoom out a tiny bit. So I just went ahead and got it framed at a local store. I don't think the framing is that great because this is dipping. So they didn't do a great job framing. So I'm a little bit disappointed in that, but I think my frame choice is nice. I wasn't really sure what to do. I don't have a lot of brown in my house, so that is why I did not do a dark brown color. My house is more gray, so I just kind of wanted it to match my house. So I kind of felt like going this would be safer, and gray obviously doesn't match this. So it looks good. I might take it back to them though and ask them to fix that dip. And I'm going to answer a couple more questions, and then I have a little demo to do that I'm actually pretty excited about. After you finish projects, how do you store your floss? So we did a video that released. Just search Cross Stitch Storage and Organization Fat Quarter Shop on YouTube, and you will see the video, and I go through how I store everything at home. We have a second part that is coming out in June that's going to talk about how we store floss here and how popular floss tubers store their floss. So that will be very helpful for you. Will the Prim Stitch series ever be sold in a bundle? Yes, once all 12 are out. When is the Kaleidoscope book coming out? It should be about 3 to 4 weeks. Right after I finish FlossTube, we are doing a final book proof meeting, and then it will go to the printer. So now I want to do a little demonstration on needles. I've gotten a lot of questions on needles. Perfect. So on the left, this is the Pat Carson brand, and I'm going to show you. They come packaged in this little yellow envelope. They have size 24, size 26, and size 28. When you open this sticker, inside is like a little, it's like the paper they use on gum, and there's 25 needles in there. So I didn't find that having them stored that way was very useful because they would pop out of my bag. So instead, I am storing mine in these magnetic needle cases by It's So Emma. So I put them in these, but because the question that I'm trying to answer today is how do you keep the difference between the sizes? So I use the Lori Holt stickers. I mean, you could handwrite it with a Pigma pen or permanent marker. So I know they're in 3 cases. I keep these at all times with me, and that's how I keep my needles separate. But I'm going to talk now about the Pat Carson, and then we're going to move to Bowen. So this is Pat Carson. So this top needle is size 24. I'm going to kind of do this with my finger so you can see the eye. So the size 24 you would use with 10 count. It is the biggest needle that Pat Carson has. So you would use it if you were doing like 3 strands or 4 strands or 6 strands. So that's that needle. It's longer and fatter. Pat Carson, the advantage is it's easier to thread because the holes of the eye of the needle are bigger. And when you look here and you look at Bowen, it's hard to see the difference, but it is a big difference in person. Now the size 26 is the middle size. So I use this one the most. You use it on 14 count. And this is size 28, which is tiny. So 24, 26, 28. Now you don't have to follow the rules. I use this one for 14 count and you're supposed to use it for 16 count. I actually use this needle because it works better for me for 16 count. But if you look at the papers, it says to use this one. Now, when I'm using Pat Carson, 99% of the time I use size 26 right here because I use a lot of 14 count Aida. Now, Bowen is a brand from France. They're a little, well, they're much harder for us to get. But these are the two brands I like the most. This is a pack where you can try the 3 sizes, 22, 24, and 26. And this is size 24, so there's 6 in a pack. Or 5 in a pack. 26. And Bowen has a lot of needles. So if you're looking at Bowen on fatquartershop.com, just look up tapestry and 20. So they have 5 needles. So they're less expensive than the Pat Carson, but you get fewer. So I use size 28, this one on my 16 count, which is right here. So to me, I'm going to put them next to each other so you can see the difference. So this is Bowen. No, this is Bowen, and this is Pat Carson. So I'm going to put the size 24 next to each other. They're almost the same. They're exactly the same size. But the Bowen is harder to thread than the Pat Carson. It's hard to tell, but it is true. Now this is size 26, and you can tell the gold by the eye is Pat Carson. So there's that one. They're the same exact length, but the Bowen on this one is very hard to thread. So, and it just depends. Now the Pat Carson, much less likely to bend. The Bowen, they bend much more. So they don't last as long for me. But I have found that this size 28 did not work for me for Pat Carson. It's longer. This one is longer. And it was so hard for me when I'm doing 16 count to turn the needle. So when I go like this to stitch in hand or to stitch sewing method, when you do this, the Bowen works better for me. So when I have extra Bowen, I put them in here. So like this says 26, this says 26. I will open this and keep this in here and snap it. So when I open, I know the bottom is Pat Carson, and I just keep them in the container for Bowen. And those are the only 2 brands that I use. But for me, I have found that I use size 26 Pat Carson most of the time. If I'm using 16 count and I'm struggling with getting the sewing method down, I use size 28 Bowen. Okay, so now I'm going to answer questions. I hope that I haven't confused you guys. And it's all personal preference. So what I do might not be what somebody else does. So for example, when Cheryl stitches on 16 count, she uses size 26 needle. I just couldn't get it to work, so I used size 28. And she actually said, why don't you try size 28? So I did. I tried size 28 Pat Carson, and it just didn't, okay, because the Bowen is more flexible, you can get that. I'll show this. Okay. Okay, this is Pat Carson. It's not bending very much. I'm pushing real hard. It doesn't bend very much. And it goes back. See, it stays straight. Okay, if you need it to flex, I'm bending, and see, it bent. So that is why I use the Bowen, because when I'm trying to go through 16 or 18 count, I need it to be able to bend. But that's all personal preference. I mean, all personal preference. Everybody's different. What I do is not what Cheryl does, and I say that's okay. Do whatever works for you. What do you mean when you say the needle gets sticky? Okay, that means that, okay, say I ate a croissant, say I ate a breakfast taco, say I didn't wash my hands. I know that I'm not supposed to, but say I'm at baseball. You get sweaty, so the sweat from your hands gets the needles kind of sticky. Now you can clean that off with alcohol, or you can move to a new needle. Pat says, I signed up for the Bats and Boos. Do we get the cross stitch pattern when we get the quilt one, or do we sign up separate? Those are both separate, completely separate. So the cross stitch for Bats and Boos, the 2 thread packs and the 2 fabrics are online now. You can just buy those. The kit, you will get notified when it comes in, totally separate. You can order them at the same time or separate, up to you. Faye says, Kimberly, have you watched Teresa Kogut's FlossTube 118? She credits you now for loving cross stitch after watching your last Stitchy talk where you stitched in hand. Yes, I did watch. I was very honored that she mentioned me, and thank you to Cheryl who told me that she mentioned me. How do DMC needles compare to Pat Carson and Bowen? I haven't used them much, so I don't want to say, but I haven't used them much. Crafting a plan life, if you're using the same colors in different projects, do you put a separate floss with each project, or do you combine when you're all done? So if I'm in process, like a whip, like I'm currently working on different projects, I keep the threads separate. When I'm done, I put them in my bucket of all my thread, and I will combine them onto one skein or one card or whatever you call those little things. Lori says, I think the frame is awesome, but you should take it back and ask them to fix it. Oh yeah, I'm going to take it back. I paid a pretty penny. They are going to fix it. Elaine says, I would like to know how to figure out what fabric to use when cross-stitching. I'm a complete newbie, and I noticed when watching your live or other videos, sometimes you change the cloth than what is recommended in the pattern pages. So can you explain in your new videos in June? Absolutely, that is on our agenda, so that is awesome. So yes. I'm going to try to move this without dropping all the needles. So I'm going to show you our previous finish. So this is the pattern. I stitched this in August 2019. This is one of my closest friends. This is Ann Sutton, and she designed this cross stitch in 2019. And I took the Harvest Road fabric that it's no longer available, but this is the fabric that came out at the time, and I matched my thread to my fabric. The pattern is called Cottage on the Corner. I stitched this on a Fabric Flare whitewash board 14 count, and I had the whitewash go horizontally. I used the colors DMC Ecru, 522, 3752, 336, and 3790. Then I took the medium Lori Holt 8-inch square vintage frame and put it in here. I sewed this with a sewing machine to the left and right to add borders, and then trimmed, and then top and bottom. And on the back, and I usually have this up in my house at all times, I put it on an easel. On the back, well, this is how when you buy the frame, it'll tell you the frame name, the size, and the color of paint. And I just put a sticky board and covered it in fabric. I made it real taut and popped it in. So it's not even held in. Now, there are things you can buy at Home Depot that you can like snap in that will keep it in, but it's never fallen out. And then I just have a little sticker because I used to do stickers before her library cards came out. But you could put little things in to hold it in. I haven't needed to. And this fabric is from this collection. And that's a Vanessa Gertson Moda fabric. But yeah, I love it. It's a fun way to finish something. Our club feature today is May Snapshots, and someone had asked earlier, so I'm happy you asked. We are shipping this later this week. If you are not in the club, we will have a kit available in 5 days from when it ships to the clubs. And we will also put on our Jolly Jabber blog all of the color conversions we used. So, let's see. There, it's looking, okay. So this is actually the first one I stitched because this was my favorite one. So I love this one. I can't wait to get this one home to actually show it in my house because it's cute. And I have already shown the amber. That is our flash sale. I showed that earlier today. And then I have some what's new things. This is the, let's see, 5th in the Time for All Seasons series by Cottage Gardens samplings. I really like this one. I would stitch it, but I definitely would not do the crown or the queue. This is the May typography that is by Pine Mountain Designs, and she usually ships our patterns, paper patterns first, and we follow up to get the PDF. So we'll get that PDF online. So those are 2 new patterns. And then, oh my gosh, these are so cute. So these are Stitching with Housewives. This is Mom. It's from their What's in Their Cups series from last week. They released that on Friday. This one they released today, Farm Fresh Eggs, so it should be on our site and in their Etsy shop. And I really like it, even though it's a chicken, I like it. It's so cute. I like that chicken. So, you know, I guess I can like some chickens. And then these patterns were pre-sold, so if you bought them from us, they have already shipped. This is Red, White, and Bantam. Now, I had to Google Bantam because I had no idea that was a chicken. I thought that maybe that was the name of a Chelsea's chicken. I didn't know it was a brand of a chicken, so I thought, well, maybe Chelsea's chicken, she named it Bantam. But it's the type of chicken. And then How Does Your Garden Grow? And Calendar Crates. And I showed last week this part of my calendar crates. I am going to start stitching this one, and I'm going to do all 12 of them, large and small. So that's exciting. I have a couple of follow-up items. So the first one is on the pale gray gingham fabric flare that I showed earlier today. We had requests for the 16 and 18 counts. So like I said, they will be available in about 7 business days, within 7 business days. On the calendar crates, on the back of your pattern, the green says 4-leaf clover, but it is actually supposed to say little sprout, and that is what you got in your club, and that's the correct color. And we emailed a newsletter out to everyone who got it so that you can like maybe print that if you just want to remember the change. Okay, big announcement. We are getting replacements on the Sail Away needle minders. And if you purchase one, we will automatically ship you a brand new one completely free. And you don't even have to email us. We're just going to take care of that. It is going to take 6 to 8 weeks. Basically, they made them incorrectly, and we worked. It took us a while to get you the answer because we needed to work with the manufacturer. As soon as they come in, we will mail it to you automatically, and we did send out an email about that, so you have that to refer to. Another announcement, because oh my gosh, I like to talk a lot, don't I? Next week, my nephew is graduating from high school on a Tuesday night, which is the weirdest thing ever, in the middle of May. So I will be in Dallas Tuesday, and there's no way I can drive home after that and get here on time. So we're going to move next week's live stream to Thursday. Same time, same place, same channel, same everything, just a different day. And then I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. I did want to show you some Mother's Day photos, or one Mother's Day photo, I guess. And those are my little kids. So on the left is Emma. She is almost as tall as me. She is kind of squatting down for some reason. Christopher is in the middle, or the second, I guess, and he's the youngest. The two on the side of me, the left is Peyton and the right is Will, and they are twins. Obviously, they're not identical, so that was Mother's Day. And I have another thing to show you also because, oh, I'm so full of surprises today. I found a new product on our website. Actually, Kevin found it. So this is a picture of me using it. It is brand new. It is called a Mega 3.5 Magnifier by the Daylight Company. The SKU is U5500. So on the right of me is actually a really inexpensive table from Home Goods, and Kevin took a fabric, like a really thick fabric. He took a piece of Shannon fabric that was left over from a fig tree quilt that I had done, and he kind of put it like this, wrapped it over my table, clamped this light on. It is a 3.5 magnifier, so it is a little bit larger. It will make it larger than my daylight light. And on the left, where my little, all my thread is, that's where my dog usually sits. So he must have been outside at the time because he actually loves to be outside. Sometimes we have to beg him to come inside. So I've been trying that, and that's been working good. And usually my phone is sitting up right there so you can see what I'm watching, but I guess I was probably taking the picture with my phone. So that's something new that I've been using. And it does have 4 brightness settings. I've been using the brightest. And it does separate in 2 parts, and it has a carry bag for travel, but I would not recommend it. I would just use it as something that you were going to like use. It says it has the carry bag, but I wouldn't recommend that. What is the size of the cups by Stitching with the Housewives? They all come out, all our small designs are about 3x4. I don't even have to look. And they stitch on 14 count. Sorry, they stitch on 28 count Monaco, which is the equivalent of 14 count. Tanya says, please tell me where to purchase the wood house used to mount Stitching with the Housewives long may she wave. Thank you, Kimberly. Okay, we're going to email that to Chelsea, and I'm going to let Chelsea answer that on their FlossTube this Saturday, because I don't know the answer. Does the light stay cool? I think it does get warm, actually. I think it does get warm compared to my Halo Go, but I like to be warm, so I'm kind of okay with it. Will you guys ever carry Monaco or other fabrics? I see you have Aida, linens, and Linda, but so many fabrics I'd like to try. So Monaco, every Monaco that is still available from DMC, who makes it, DMC Charles Craft, is on our site. We have 4 of them. They have discontinued black. They have discontinued the other colors that used to be sold by the Bolt and Joann's. They just have discontinued for whatever reason. We have reached out twice to say, hey, if you produce black, we can buy this amount. But they just, a lot of it is discontinued. So if there's a Monaco that you see somewhere else that we don't have, it's because it was produced years and years ago. They just have discontinued. But we definitely have our sales rep that works with DMC. They're aware that we are interested in any new Monaco they bring out. And if they do bring any out, we're happy to carry it. There's just been some discontinuations. The company got sold a couple of years ago, and when they sold, some of the items were discontinued, which is, very normal for switchovers of companies. If you order 5 or more items for a Fat Quarter shop, would all of the items be shipped in one package? Yes, if they're all in stock at the same time, yes. Could you say the name of your light one more time? Sure. Omega 3.5 magnifier, the Daylight Company, U2550. I do think it's expensive, but I do think it is worth it, and I'm very thankful that Kevin found it, because he actually found it from I think the owner of that company emails him, and so he showed it to me, and I was like, oh, we got to try it. But I did try it. I've tried it for about 2 weeks before I did the review, because I do want to always say what I think is good about a product. I want to be always honest, but I do like it. Anita says, question on monthly Prim series. Our next mailing in June will be the last one. Do you have something that will replace this? No, we don't, but Lori has lots and lots and lots of new charts coming out, but there's nothing to replace this specific item. So guys, I just want to thank you for joining me today. I hope you had a lot of fun. Please share all of the things you're stitching with us with hashtag FQS Stitch Mania, and I'll see you next Thursday. So have a great week, guys.